There's a school right here, and they walk right by his house. And I can't believe it. I can't believe that they let him live that close.
People convicted of sex crimes living in your neighborhood. At last check, there are just over 600 registered sex offenders living in Smith County alone. Many living near schools, child care facilities, or parks. In a CBS 19 special report, our Ladarian Cole discovered most of these offenders are not breaking any laws by living so close to these kid-friendly zones.
I don't think anybody knows. He's very quiet. He keeps to himself. He never really comes outside.
You would never know it by simply walking through this neighborhood. But on this street resides one of the more than 230 registered sex offenders living in Tyler. According to the Texas Department of Public Safety, 2 others live within a 5-mile radius.
When you go to look at a house, you're going to have to look yourself because nobody's going to tell you.
For 3 years, Shannon Rogers has lived doors down from a registered sex offender and didn't know it. But he could have by checking the Texas Public Sex Offender Registry online. A search shows this record for his neighbor, a person listed as a moderate risk offender following 2 charges of online solicitation of a minor through sexual conduct.
What's restricting him from getting away from the computer and acting something out that he wants to do? And there's free game right in front of his house. Kids walking in the evening and in the morning.
Being that my children are not small, I didn't take the time to go look up the details. Had my children had been small, that's something that I would have even considered when I was buying this house.
Diane Sains lives just a block away from Rogers. She's known of their neighbor's criminal history since moving in about a year ago.
My concern always was being so close to the school. You know, I don't know what the protocol is for all of that.
Tyler ISD's Clarkston Elementary is barely 1,000 feet away from her neighbor's doorstep, and Texas law allows it.
The state of Texas, everything that governs registered sex offenders is taken out of Chapter 62 of the Texas Code of Criminal Procedure. Nothing in that code is restrictive on where they can live or work.
Tyler Police Detective Andy Urbaugh maintains the city sex offender registry. Unless restricted by the individual terms of probation, parole, or mandated supervision, or local child safety zones are established. Where a registered sex offender lives in Texas is free game.
A city can say you can designate so many feet that you can live around a school or a child care facility or a park. Unless the city adopts an ordinance, again, there's no restriction on where they can live if they're just registering as sex offenders.
Tyler does not have an ordinance.
Really? That's scary. And we need to do something about that.
We have a lot of schools and we have a lot of child care facilities. It would pretty much put the entire city as a safety zone.
Take this Southwest Tyler neighborhood, for example. I knocked on at least a dozen doors, and out of the 5 neighbors who answered, only 1 knew that they had a registered sex offender living on their street. And if you look behind me, we have Grace Early Education Center, and that registered offender lives less than 0.2 of a mile away.
I think it's of the utmost importance, especially if you have children who play out in the neighborhood, to know where the registered sex offenders live in your neighborhood. You know, knowledge is power.
DPS's online registry categorizes offenders as low, moderate, or high risk. In Texas, nearly 96,000 sex offenders are registered. Of the more than 600 who live in Smith County, only 26 are listed as high-risk offenders.
Anytime an offender gets put on a sex offender registration, they have to take what's called a static 99 test. Somebody that's a high-risk offender has answered those questions to the point where they have more victims, convicted of more crimes of sexual nature, of those things. So yeah, they need to be watched a little closer.
You don't know, so you suspect the worst. It's just, I can't believe he lives that close.
Urbaugh says he's required to send out a notification to anyone within a mile radius of a high-risk sex offender when they move to that address. And whether low, medium, or high risk, if a child victim is involved, a notification is sent out to the schools in that city or county with the offender's information. He reminds that not every person on the registry has a child victim. Some have been convicted of sex crimes involving an adult. For a step-by-step guide on how you can find out if there's a sex offender living in your neighborhood or near your child's school, head over to our website, cbs19.tv. We've got you covered, East Texas. Ladarian Cole, CBS 19.